Welcome, friends, to another scalding hot episode of the Mettle podcast. As always, I'm still Omar Sangurima. I'm going to do it up a little differently today. I think we're going to reground a hair in terms of, why the heck should you listen to me? On the pre-show, Alyson was saying we should do this, and I agree, but I don't have reasonings for why you should listen to me. It's very difficult. So I'm going to try my best. I'll state facts here. Been in cyber for 12 years. Before that, I was not in cyber. So that is also a fact. I feel like I'm doing the funeral scene from Succession, right? Mo died, and when a man dies, there is sadness, right? Like he doesn't want to get associated with like the dark things that were in that episode.
I just saw a play, no joke, this week, and a less than desirable character dies in the play.
Yeah.
And they're like, say a few words. He's like, he was a man in life. He is a man in death.
Yeah.
That's all literally, I can say.
It was look up the episode because it was Alan Ruck, right? Doing the Alan Ruck things that he can do, the deadpanning. Amazing. Yeah. And it was, it's one of my favorite shows of all time, Succession. So, I was in cyber. I've been in cyber for about 12 years. Been at Memorial Sloan Kettering for 7 of those. It'll be 7 in May. Cannot believe how the time flies there. And loved every moment. Working at the hospital. Overall, have greatly enjoyed the cyber career. Background was pentesting to start. Then GRC about 3 to 4 years in. Put my hand up for GRC by mistake. Didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what I was getting into. Questionnaires. And then should have been tipped off by the fact that no one else, right? It's one of those where everyone steps back and you seem like you step forward. That's kind of thing went down and started handling questionnaires. Questionnaires are still terrible. I can very confidently attest to that. So trying to figure that out with our joint venture here, of course. GRC since then. So GRC for about 8-9 years. It's just been a wild ride.
Well, and let's give a little extra. You have your MBA.
Oh, right? We're going, okay. There we go.
I mean, because we talk about business, right?
Sure. So, let's see here. MBA, because you go to business school when you don't want to do what you're doing, but you don't know what you want to do. That's the move, right?
I thought that was law school.
Hey, listen, that's why we're homies here. I think we're seeing a lot of overlap here, but so MBA back then. I say back then, it was the first one. Then I did the MIS, and I was thinking of trying to switch into cybersecurity. Kids, if you're listening at home, I did it backwards, right? This is just how I did it because I grew up on a first generation immigrant meal of education is the silver bullet. So when in doubt, I just ran towards more school. It's had mixed results. So it was MBA, then MIS. And then, of course, because, if some is good, more is better, I did the doctorate degree after that, doctorate in information security, dissertations on EMR, adoption of best practices in the EMR space by super smart people. So the subtitle that I couldn't put in there is, why do smart people do dumb stuff when it comes to cyber? That was really, truly what I was trying to see where we could bridge the gap there. And then because, I don't know, I was bored one day, I went back and got an MHA from Western Governors University. So that's 1 doctorate and 3 master's degrees, and I'm itching for more, but my wife said no. So there I am.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I'm going, I've got a bachelor's and a Juris Doctorate.
Right? Yeah, get out of here. Stop it.
Just a few years of school, but not as many as you. So, and then of course you do all the certifications as well to figure out which ones actually make a difference in your role as well as those in your industry and within your group. Which is why when you do the Cert Corner, it has a lot of meaning because you actually have done it, you've taken it, you've lived it, and you found the value or you found the reasons why maybe not to renew.
Avoid at all costs, right? Yeah. And I'll tell y'all, right? We're not bought and paid for by any of those, right? Like, so.
No. Yeah, we are completely independent. So say what you need to say, your honest opinion, because it's all opinion. So I am Alyson Laderman. I have been a litigation attorney, goodness gracious, for over 20 years now. I'm handling everything from business litigation, personal injury, insurance litigation, criminal law, and pretty much everything else in between. Have always had a penchant for technology, but back many years ago, there really wasn't a whole lot of it. I mean, I have my GeoCities page and HTML, but there weren't a whole lot of women in tech back then. And I came from a family that also pushed education is the end all be all, and was very much firmly planted in the you're going to law school lane of things. And so I always, quote, knew I was going to law school one way or the other. And so after 4 years of getting my bachelor's degree and several minors to go with it, from world studies to Caribbean and Latin American studies and a law major and a psychology minor, I then went off to law school, editor-in-chief of my law review for the Business Law Review, and kind of started that career. Always found my way back into tech in some way, whether it was joining the cybersecurity group at the nation's largest law firm when they first started it back in 2016, 2017, and being part of that. But then kind of kept along the lawyer path for quite a bit until an opportunity arose to join a cybersecurity certification company, of which I was brought in as the chief operating officer, chief legal officer, and then eventually promoted to chief executive officer. And now I am the executive director / CEO of Mettle, which is a brand new 1C3, courtesy of the IRS, giving us the go-ahead this week in just 19 days from the data submission. Very proud of us as an organization. And our whole goal is to create entry-level jobs. So we are doing workforce development for cybersecurity professionals while also tackling the issue of so many nonprofits and small businesses that'll qualify just don't have the budget or the availability or access to resources to have cybersecurity assessments and those types of services. And so we will be providing training and support and structure for those that we are bringing in the workforce side so that they can do very structured work for nonprofits and local small businesses that qualify at either low or no cost. And so we are very excited for that opportunity. And so, Omar and I collectively come in with lots of experience having owned businesses, studied business, run businesses of all kinds and shapes and sizes. I also have medical background, having represented lots of medical facilities as well throughout the course of my career. So it gives everybody a different flavor of kind of what we're doing. And so we say all of that because today's topic, we are bringing it in and looking at cybersecurity and all the different facets, right? I think one of the things we hear a lot, especially when we go and speak to schools, and I've done that plenty, whether it's high school or college students or even after, and we say, what are you going to do? What are you interested in? And they say, cybersecurity. And I say, great. What about it? What part of cybersecurity? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, like Omar, are you looking to start in pen testing? Are you into governance, risk, auditing? Are you into blue team? Are we into red team? What are we looking at here? Are you looking to do incident response? Are you on cleanup crew? Do you want to be the one spotting it? Do you want to be the search and find group to see what's going on more of a SOC type of feel? And it's kind of bizarre how many are like, look at you with the deer in the headlight look of, what do you mean there's more than just cybersecurity? So we wanted to go into that in a bit of depth as best we can based on our collective experience. So knowing that that's kind of the topic, let's start with that, Omar. So what have you seen, with the people that have come to you as a mentor as to their expectations and understanding of the field, and how do you help give them that first bit of guidance as to things that they should look at and consider when figuring out what do you actually enjoy doing? Like you said, for GRC, you kind of didn't step forward, but raised your hand and didn't step backwards. So that became what you ended up doing and actually enjoying now, I think, for the most part. How do you help people figure out what that area of flavor of interest for them is?
I heard and noted that for the most part, because we text while as so we're not only podcast co-hosts here, but we're buds, and so still though, but it's odd when I look back and say that out loud to go, that's accidental, and I did fall in love with this aspect of it. But starting out, studying for the Sec Plus and things, trying to break in, truly, that GRC stuff, I don't know. I'll know about it. I'll be able to answer multiple choice questions about it. Sure. It's like governance stuff, but you want to get into cyber, you want to pop boxes. I at least had that there. I use that question that you stated as a vetting tool to see where in my homebrewed mentorship program that I have all up here, so it's not official at all, but where we got to start. If somebody comes in and it's the immediate follow-up question, if they have a hard answer to that, which is already like, oh, this is great. You kind of know where you're going. You saw something spoke to you. Awesome. Why? That's usually then my follow-up. If tell me, hey, you know what? I'm forensics. And I go, why? Sometimes they'll tell you straight away. They'll go, I just like solving puzzles. I just like the methodical part of it. I like piecing together timelines. Okay, cool. That does sound like a threat intel analyst or potentially a forensics analyst, or I'm really good with hardware. I like breaking things down and building them back up. Awesome. So we're looking forensics or maybe IoT, IT, OT. Awesome. Great. If they come in and, as you said, which is still happening far too often for my liking, even 12 years into the field and a few years into actively mentoring folks, it's just we do a horrific job of breaking out and really systematizing, standardizing what each role means. And yes, I understand that there's context specific to maybe the industry or the business that you're in. Totally understand it. But I think that one of the foundational things in this field that makes us as an industry still look immature when we're asking for those big seats at the table to drive business decisions is I can say, I'm going to get my analysts in a room. I could have risk people. I could have blue teamers. I could have threat intel folks that are starting out. Potentially, I could have really, honestly, engineers that are just called analysts. And when you're sitting across the table from that sort of team, it makes communication difficult because you don't know what the common denominator is when you're trying to get points and thoughts across. So you set up a situation where we're going to spend time translating things versus actually solving problems. And then you have new folks trying to break in. They hear cyber's got a lot of jobs or a lot of opportunity. They want to get in and get after it. And potentially they're prepping for stuff that's really removed from where their heart and their curiosity is. Because as you know, I'll kick it back to you here, there's wherever your heart wants to take you in cyber, you can find viable, amazing, intriguing work that you could attach to a mission or attach to a great viable business and make a career out of it. And I'll say from our side, we need you. So there's that. But we do a horrible job of onboarding and setting up that pipeline.
So kind of following up on that, as you were talking about systematizing and really kind of figuring out the right lanes, right? Like you said, analysts could be any of those. It's kind of like, let me take a step back before I ask the question. So like in law, right? You have associates, you've got partners, you've got managing partners. And so that's more of seniority, like we've kind of accepted, and of counsel. Those are really the four groups you're looking at, right? So maybe it's a senior lawyer or someone who comes in part-time or just has a different flex arrangement, right? But they're of counsel with the firm. Those are your four types in levels of kind of seniority and whatever. But then we also have what kind of lawyer. So are you criminal? Are you antitrust? Are you privacy? Are you cybersecurity? Are you patents, for which you need a special science degree and background to have, right? Are you other intellectual properties such as trademarks, copyrights? Are you family law? Each of those is a different lane. And so you could have a seniority. So you could be an associate in family law. You could be a partner in family law. You could be the managing partner in family law or of counsel to a family law firm. And all of those come with different things, but it's a unified, for the most part, naming system that when you apply for a job, you're going to see, I've been an associate in construction law for X amount of years at this firm. And so through an AI filter for applying for jobs, it's going to, it's an associate attorney. They litigated or they drafted, depending on if you're transactional or litigation attorney. So those are two more other types of lawyers within each of those categories. But for the most part, the system will be able to say, are you transactional? Are you litigation? Are you a partner? Are you an associate? And then what is your particular practice area? And I don't feel that cyber has gotten there yet. And with that, are you finding, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. That way you can pontificate on it further. But are you finding, or have you heard from people that either you mentor or you're finding even within your organization as you're hiring, that there's a difficulty in aligning the right candidates with the right opportunities because the names are not matching necessarily?
It's absolutely the case. And what I think the broader implication is then how does one prepare for these roles and how does one trawl and fish for these roles? One of the things that I say when I was breaking in and now I have enough gray in the beard and, aches in the back that I can go back on my day here. I always used as a tool for myself as well as for any initial mentees. Let's reverse engineer where you want to go. Grab me, after that, again, I'm giving away the whole program for free. I don't know. Maybe if I wanted to sell a PDF course, I should probably keep it under wraps. But it's, you say, where do you want to go? Why? And then the next thing I do is, okay, give me a job spec that you would want to, that you think, because this also helps me kind of understand like where they think their skills are, where maybe the gaps are, maybe where the blind spots are, because there's the definite difference between a gap and a blind spot, right? It's I hate to quote Rumsfeld, but the known unknowns, the unknown unknowns, all that fun stuff. So, right, say, hey, give me something that you think you could walk into in like the next 6 months, right? And then give me something that you'd love, wave a magic wand that you want to grow to in 3 years or 5 years. And then let's look at them, see what the gaps are between those themselves, right? So then we develop that ladder skills wise. Shout out to Nice there. We'll probably circle back on that in a second. You go skills wise. But then also I see, okay, starting from where you are now, let me look at that 6 month. You can't do that anymore. Because if you look at a risk analyst or a cyber analyst one, or even, I'm going to be completely frank. There's so many different iterations of the difference between information security and cybersecurity and what the right one is versus what the one is in practice versus what the one is in the job spec we're looking at any given time. How in the good Lord's good name are you going to have someone break in and understand and navigate this without help, from outside parties? That's the number two. Then that creates a system where those are folks that are easily preyed upon, which really annoys the heck out of me, right? Then you get the snake oil salespeople coming in and going, listen, I have the Codex, I have the Rosetta Stone, pay me money that you might not have right now because you're trying to switch careers and you're trying to get after it there. But sure, and that really annoys the heck out of me. There's certain programs that do it right. There's a lot more, unfortunately, that do it wrong and that are borderline. Like if you did that to a family member, I want you to drop a pin and I want to find you. Like it's really skeezy. It's really grimy. So then you get situations where they'll come in and a mentee will come in and go, sure, I want this. I want, this amount of money. I want to go here. I want to do that. And then, okay, cool. Right. I'm here to, like Pedro. I think the second podcast that I mentioned, right? Make all your dreams come true. Yeah. Right. The Pedro, I got you. Vote for me. I'll make all your dreams come true. So I'm here to facilitate those. Let's look at that. To me, sounds like an architect. Wait a second. What? What's it like? There's cyber architect. What do you mean? And it's, again, through no fault of the mentees at all. It's just the fact that this industry decides every new technology that comes out to have a new set of job titles because the algorithm, because who knows? And then you're confusing the heck out of the people that can unlock value if you let them in, but you let them in and have them understand where the heck they're going.
And I figure with, the uptick in organizations using AI to kind of create the job postings and then ferret out and review and parse through the resumes that are submitted and the titles aren't matching, even though the skills are comparable, then they get dinged and you're losing out on that opportunity to bring in a valuable candidate because we didn't call it an orange, right? Like it just didn't have the same name, whatever it was supposed to be.
You're being very kind. You're being very kind. You're even assuming that those job specs are tied to skills.
Job specs aren't even right. I know.
or tied to actual skills, or not wish lists, or not laundry lists, or not, I could.
It's a unicorn, always a
Yeah,
unicorn.
listen,
We're going to
always,
add some
right?
pixie fairies in there too and a couple
And
wizards
wings.
because
It's a Pegasus
Ooh.
and a unicorn, and it's like having a wizard ride it too. You're just like,
honestly, as
I
a
don't
kid, I
know, like
legit had
those.
issues when they made Pegasuses with horns. That's just wrong.
It's just, it's a hybrid, and at the very least, it should be sterile, like a liger, like in my opinion, right? It shouldn't, you know what I mean? It should be one of those where it's like, like it's too powerful. Like I can't mess with this. Are you kidding me? I got to fight this thing now too. Like, get out of here. No. Yeah, dude.
Well, so you had referenced though the NICE framework, right? So out of
Yes.
NIST, they've created what is the NICE framework, and they put together essentially tasks that align with roles and that type of thing. And so how can the industry maybe benefit from aligning the jobs, not just with titles, but things that may align better with what has been suggested by the NICE framework? Would that help with some of this issue?
It would absolutely help. It also helps with, I think, the hang up that this industry still has on degrees. And I know, right? I'm part of the problem. Hi, my name is Omar, and I'm a degree addict. Hi, Omar. I fully understand that but I did say it as a caveat when I was going down the list, like, hey, kids, don't do what I did. I kind of inverted it. Now I will also be transparent and say that, are they helping me maybe advance and get promoted and get into rooms? Sure. But like, was my wife correct, as she is in many things? That I didn't need to do it in the order and at the pace that I did it when I was trying to break in. Also, yes.
Sorry.
Also, very, very much yes. Right? Because I'm still doing that with certs now, and I'm trying to kick that habit like the last dragon there. But it's one of those things where it also, again, it can decouple that exclusionary force that I have to say this, that laziness, either on the part of hiring managers or on the part of HR folks, to say, cool, we're going to, cut a ton of these applicants off because it's no bachelor's degree. I can tell you full-throatedly, and it's funny, shout out to the head of IT recruiting at Montefiore Hospital. I was on a call with her the other day, and I just was like, I got my person here. Like, I got it. Like, we're going to be arm in arm and kick doors down. I'm going to arrange for all of us to chat once, because she was just like, this is madness. There is no IT. She goes, this is the quote. There's no IT position in the hospital that needs a degree in order to be done appropriately. Sure, they can help you. Sure, they can show, hey, I want to maybe go on the manager track versus the individual contributor track. But in terms of a straight up, you need the degree in order to do XYZ, nonsense. And I've been hedging my advice, I think, prior to that, because I didn't want to. But you know what? The internet's all about controversy, and this is a safe controversy I think we can wade into. There is no need for those degrees. They help, sure. Now, what NICE does is that then it breaks down, okay, what do you actually want the person to do? And already there, Alyson, we're asking hiring managers and HR folks some hard questions. It's not something I can check off. It's not something I can just get done. I can't just go, degree, cool, and then just not look at the application of somebody who doesn't have a degree, but then I have to know the skills, because that necessitates then what they're going to
what
be
you're
doing.
looking for.
Exactly. Right. That is also another assumption, right? We're just doing all sorts of ASS out of you and me here. And it's a thing. So the NICE framework, at the very least, tries to standardize and show exactly what these are sort of what we would call these roles based on this bucket of skills. And then let's map it to potential outcomes and tasks that they would want to do. So you do have to do a little homework at the front end, but what you get, which is what we're living at my 9 to 5 here at the hospital, is you then get job specs that are much tighter and much more closely aligned to what that person's going to be walking into day one. That is, and again, what I've learned is that's not to say that you can't have dreams and aspirations. I'm all about dreams on this part, right? But you can't have dreams and aspirations for 90 days or 120 days or a year or 2 years, or building out a piece of your program down the road, depending on the appetite of the person and the aspirations of what they want to do and where they want to go. Cool. You'd be a good leader and actually listen to the people that you hire. It's a novel concept. It's bananas. Why? It's this. Cats are walking with dogs, and fish are on land here. But it's just listening to the people and what they want to do. However, still, you get that day one, and you kill that fear that everyone has when they're hiring of I'm going to hire somebody, and oh goodness, I'm pouring money and resources and time and energy, and it's just a horrific fit. But now I can't get out of it. So you have stuff like NICE. There's another one out there. I think I'm gonna maybe butcher it. It's SFIA. I think it's called the Sophia. That's more for our folks across the pond. Same sort of concept where they have like swim lanes of levels in each of these areas and domains, which is a really big help when you're then trying to come up with development plans inside of a role. So it was one of those things that I got deep into a few years ago as me and my compatriot we're building those out for each of the places, right? Because lo and behold, we work for somebody that wants to upskill and wants to support his people and wants to listen to. Again, controversial concept. Listen, he's gonna get bagged up by the CIA. I don't know. He's a wild man. He's too crazy. He's too dangerous. But it's you have Sophia. I think it's on version 9 now. You have the NICE framework, and there's folks have tried to crack this nut, and it's there. We just got to put it into place.
Why haven't we though? Like I can tell you, when we were doing the certifications, we actually aligned so the first thing you do is a job task analysis, right? Which is, if you pass this cert, what are the skills and would you be expected to be able to exemplify, right? And show in your job. And to do that, we aligned a lot of it with the NICE framework and said, okay, what are these tasks that employers are hiring for with these potential outcomes that we can link back? And then of course the experts come in and rank them by criticality of how important is it to the job. And then of course, how often are you doing it? And that's how ultimately we decide, well, which ones are we going to focus on for each exam within the goal of what the role is. But we always started from the NICE framework going, what are the tasks? What is it employers want? And so I'm like, to me, looking at it from an outsider who is relatively new to the field going, I love this. It's giving us what the tasks should be. And yet looking at job descriptions and watching what's going on in the workforce development space, it's definitely not in alignment. And so I'm just kind of curious why that might be and what it would take for more organizations to kind of implement some of that within their job descriptions and what they're looking for to really understand what is it you want somebody to do. Because I think it would cut down on that problem you articulated, which is putting in money to hire someone who's not the right fit. So if you're trying to find who's got the right skills for the right tasks for the right job, it would seem to me you should take the time and energy to do that research on the front end and make that alignment so that you get as close to the right fit. Culture's another issue, right? But at least the skills that can do the job.
And I think you touched on the reason why I'll say it. I've been in a couple different places, and it's made me appreciate the type of leadership that I work for now. It has to be a tone from the top that this matters. I can't tell you enough where I'll say this, right? I was talking to him today. He was preparing to be the final round of interviews for a position we're hiring. And it just struck me, right? Big time VP at a pretty good spot to work at. He was conferring with me to do interview prep for an analyst level position. VP has a ton of stuff to do, lots of things, but I'm doing interview prep because it matters. Adding a person to the team matters. I take this seriously. It's going to impact a lot of things. That tone has to come because then I think it opens the space for downstream, down the line, for directors then and senior managers and program managers and what have you, to then understand, okay, listen, I should be doing this mapping. And it's not a one and done. That's also what I'll say if I have like an ounce of sympathy, like just the justice coach, where it's not easy to do. And it's also something that's not set it and forget it, like a chicken rotisserie. You have to then go back and in 6 months say, did I fudge this? Is this accurate? Have the needs of the department changed? Has the composition of the team shifted such that if I'm going to have development happen, I'm going to need to do it this way, or have the desires, again, going back to that novel concept of listening to the people that you bring onto the team, have their desires change, and how can you best support them? Is there a need for maybe like a offshoot or a fork of the development plan? And then you're going into NICE and you're going into Sophia and you're bringing those two together and going, okay, so-and-so is here, but they want to go here. How can I make that roadmap and just be a good leader there? I think there's the thought of we can churn them, we can bring them in. We may never hire somebody ever again. So let me get the, like Cyberpunk 2077 equivalent of whoever the heck we can get in real life and just bring them on and because we'll never hire again because we're seen as a cost center and this, that, and the third. And I think that if you establish that culture of, listen, we're going to be small but mighty. Most cyber teams, that's as good as you can get. You're never going to be bigger than your IT team, I think, right? If you think about it in sort of constraints and organizational context, but you have to make a concerted effort that this is something it's hygiene. It's something that you have to go back and fix. You have to, I learned this being a first-time homeowner, but the walls have paint on them. My wife, again, as she's right about many things, no, that's nice, but we're going to have to redo it. And in 5 years, some places are due for another touch-up, or we want to change it out, or life changes. You have to commit.
It sounds like cybersecurity, right? Our assessments are good at that moment in time, but you got to go back and check it because things change, technology changes, needs change. Same thing with your jobs. I think calling it hygiene is probably the best way of really looking at it. Is as your business evolves, the needs of your business will evolve with it, and your hiring and bringing people on should also evolve with that process to make sure that it meets your current needs. It does you no good to dust off an old resume and have somebody doing skills to maybe work on an Apple IIe. That's really not going to help you too much.
And honestly, it's just understanding that even in the age of AI and ATSs, you're still going to have to do some tailoring. You can have a good solid template, you can have a good home base, but you have to present it as a problem solver. But the piece that I think, because sadly still it's a buyer's market now, it's tough out there for folks to break in. I always say the Omar of 12 years ago would not get employed today trying to break in, just hands down. It's a no, which is nutty to me. It's not 12 years is a long time, but not that long for this nonsense to be occurring at this point. But there's, I think, a commitment that folks in the industry already there have to make in order to say, listen, I'm going to keep the gates open, or at the very least, I'm going to put the doors in sharp relief. Not going to make it where it's a speakeasy sort of culture and you got to know someone that knows someone that knows and knows the right things to say and has the secret phrase. Just if you put your specs out there and you're constantly changing them and refining them. And listen, I get the thing that came up yesterday for me on another call was the classic, like, well, if you can't give away the farm, like you can't just, if you talk about all the skills you need, you're giving away your tech stack. And I said, what's even an older concept than that? Security through obscurity is nonsense. You should be able to say, or at least say skills. Then cool.
Right.
I'll meet you halfway. Let's just talk about skills. But the fact is, a lot of hiring managers can't tell me what their folks need to do on a day-to-day, which then I think goes back and speaks to that cultural dissonance that sadly is the culprit here in my estimation.
So I'm going to bring it back to the very beginning of the topic where we were talking about all the different kinds of lanes or areas that you could be in cybersecurity. So not to put you on the spot, but this is what we do. What are, off the top of your head, not multiple choice, I need a full essay without using AI. No, but if you could briefly describe, though, maybe even you can even use your organization for context, right?
Sure.
What are the different types of roles that someone could be looking at, like those different areas, and maybe a little summary of what each does. Like you kind of briefly mentioned, like if you like puzzles, you might like X, Y, or Z,
Sure.
right? That type of thing. So people understand because, people hear, oh God, governance, then I got to deal with just laws. And it's really more than that, right? To me, that's a puzzle piece part.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's why I figured I'll ask you in that
Sure.
field what those areas look like and kind of the interests that might align with those.
I'm going to rely on the old faithful. Don't reinvent the wheel, use it. There's the concept of the InfoSec color wheel. A lot of folks know red and blue. You have red teamers that are going to try to break in. They're going to kick tires, find weaknesses, exploit them ethically, then go back and report. I mentioned the report part because not enough people discuss that. Communications and written communication in the tech field is one of those absolute make or break skills. It translates to a lot of different niches in this field. But as a pen tester, you're going to be explaining your findings and reporting on them far more in depth and probably more often if you're successful than you would think. And sometimes some folks have told me that have stayed in that field or that are in that field currently. You do that more than actually breaking into stuff, like explaining it, presenting it, getting it across as to why this matters. So you go figure, you get into it because you hate people and then you end up having a, right. And then I mean, listen, myself included, like that was kind of what, and then I discovered that I secretly don't hate people as much as I did. And here you go. So then the blue team on the other side of that is going to be your defenders. It's going to be your folks that like to find beauty in noise, that can see a bunch of alerts and can see a bunch of data and can find the hidden patterns and can find what the data is trying to tell you. It's really almost seems like witchcraft when you're watching a really amazing blue teamer pick out exactly what the heck is going on based on their alerts and based on the workflows and based on the things that they have set up for their stations. It is just phenomenal to see. You're looking at logs, you're parsing through tons of data and logs that don't sync with each other, different outputs, different tech stacks, and you're there to make sure that the digital doors and windows stay shut. And if anybody jiggles them, you're sounding the proper alarms and you're investigating. And then you're also, there's potential patching that's involved on either side. Sometimes a red teamer will take that. So you're doing the hygiene in terms of the hardware there. Then the white team is more your management, compliance, logistics, administration. So probably kind of where I would sit as a program manager in terms of what we're doing, helping out with budget, making sure procurement gets done, arranging the program, making sure that, 1 + 1 = 3 sort of deal, and things along that line. Now, purple team is not as much of a newer concept anymore. And thankfully so. They, and a surprise to nobody, it's red and blue mixed together. Normally what you'll see is, and this is my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, but employability is through the roof for a true dyed-in-the-wool purple teamer. And I think it just stands to reason. They can do red, they can do the breaking in, they can do the securing and the hardening and the battening down to the hatches. But a true purple teamer can do both and do well. Those are the types of people that we have on my team specifically. We have a bunch of really amazing, what I would consider purple teamers, and they just become like organizational consultants, like folks that you can just sit and go, we have cyber problems, and they have cyber answers because they can see it from both ends of that spectrum. So if you like, instead of reading and getting, picturing beauty out of the noise of data, if you then like taking a step back and seeing how all the pieces fit together, not figuring out how they do. That's it, so it's not necessarily puzzles in that sense, but understanding how if you step away, then a mosaic becomes one full image. For me, that's where your purple teamers come in. And I've personally seen they're just amazing partners when, hey, I can only fit 3 people in this meeting because I don't want to scare whoever the heck is on the other side. I'm going to go find myself like one of the strong purple teamers and go, listen, whichever way they want to take this, you have me covered from a technical perspective. You have your orange team. it's more your awareness and training facilitates that kind of interaction between the cybersecurity team and the rest of the organization. They can either sit with in the vertical of a training capability within an organization, so they could be cyber minded but sit with the training team there, or they can sit native inside of the cybersecurity capability and just be dedicated trainers. Those are obviously going to be, you're going to need the speaking skills, you're going to need the presentation skills, you're going to need, I would say honestly, probably a little bit of the sales skills there in order to, generate buzz, press the flash. If you're decent at social media, believe it or not, that's a strong skill set to come in. I've also seen good data analytics help, surprisingly or unsurprisingly. If you're in the business, you kind of know where I'm going here. Help in that capacity, because then those data-driven insights are going to tell you where the training needs to happen. And if you're really good at that sort of workflow of harvesting data, understanding where it's telling you that you might have some weak spots on the human element and where to shore them up, you're an end-to-end orange teamer that is just bringing outsized value to the organization. Sadly, it's one of those places that I think gets undervalued by many organizations, right? If I only have 4 spots, I can just send them to some YouTube links, and like that might get you somewhere when you're young as an organization, but true mature organizations, to understand that context, to get that sort of training, to land with the types of audiences that you're supporting, you're going to need, hard body orange teamers. Yellow teamers, I would say DevSecOps is considered your yellow team folks. You're going to be looking at your pipelines. You're going to be looking at what's going to get committed, how your code repos are being backed up, how they're being secured and supported. Please say they are. That's the one joke I'll inject on this side, where it's like, please say that you have a CI/CD sort of setup and situation, but you have liaisons, and of course, you're gonna need some software dev skills. There's nothing worse than sending someone to talk to a group of very skilled devs that can't speak in their language. That is something you do to somebody you do not like. And rightfully so. It's one of those things. It's almost a hazing ritual that I would consider it at this point. Like sending, go talk. If you have one of those A&T folks, go talk to a bunch of devs, and you don't have anyone that can kind of bridge that gap, you're setting them up for a firing squad, because they're always pressed. They're being pressed for time. They're being pressed to commit. They're being pressed to build. So what the heck are you doing wasting devs' time that could be building something that could be driving the organization forward? So that yellow team needs to understand what the heck the tech stack is, what it does, how to build it, how to break it, and how to quality assess it. Those, for me, you'll hear, and again, these are like, I haven't even touched on like what roles you can call. You'll hear like stuck in these groups here, but now for me, that yellow team, you're going to hear a lot of site reliability engineer. I think SRE is kind of a motif there. We're bringing in operations and resiliency, and you're bringing in dev skills and coding, and then good SREs are people that I'd love to pluck for like a good DevSecOps or DevOps role, because of their understanding of exactly how things are made and how things will break. And then finally, rounding out the color wheel, you have your green team, which is built to, and this is something that I think gets ignored a lot, built for automation of your tools and your flows. They're supporting the rest of the wheel. I think it's ignored back in the day, but now I think with the advent of AI, those green teamers are going to get a heck of a lot more love. They should have been getting love, because trust me, if you have a person who's skilled in coming in and tweaking a workflow and automating it, that person will never want for a drink at a social, will never want for lunch, because they're able to then support understaffed teams with capabilities that you can scale especially when you're getting pushback from the rest of the organization going, we don't need that many security folks. Okay, give me somebody who can automate my workflows and do the work of 10 with the hands of 3.
So that was ironically the role I found myself in at law firms. And that, like I said, I kept going back towards tech every time. And every law firm, it was like, what is the case management system we're using? And what does it do exactly? Okay, hold on. And then I would get into Word and I would get into Outlook and I would create systems and automations and things. And that's why everybody's like, hi, automates everything. I'm like, y'all realize a lot of your tech stack already did some of those automations before. And, you know, depending on the depth of what you need, they might still be good enough for what you're trying to do. Obviously not in a cybersecurity space, but for what I was doing, I had the ability to create templates and auto forward emails. So my team, when certain things came in, they knew, and it would be in a different color or would go to different inboxes. Everybody knew what they needed to do and set up calendar invite, the whole thing. Right. So I very much appreciate the value of what someone on the green team would do in that regard, because like you said, if you happen to be shorthanded, right, and you've only got so many resources, that is a way to help maximize the use of the technology in a secure, safe way. Obviously, that would be the point of all of that, but so that you can be effective and so that everybody else in that department can be effective as well.
And then that's where I think you're showing value. I think for my money, I think that's why they labeled it the green team, because at that point, then when you're going back to the organization going, okay, cool, did all this, have everything locked down, have it automated up to the gills. I still need more hands. You have the cases already made going, this is what we're getting out of the headcount that we have right now. We're automating out the wazoo. We just need more humans. That's an easier FTE case to make than, you know, but to your point, Alyson, that was brilliantly said. Sometimes you don't necessarily need $200,000 AI tool. You just need to get under the hood of Power Automate.
That's right.
And figure it out, or you just need to get really nasty at macros. It's still the case. There's the XOR, or SOAR, right? XOR is like a flavor of this, but SOAR, right? The security orchestration automation. A lot of times, all that is just really workflows that were existing, but you make it low code or no code where you can just arrange it in a workflow from a UI perspective and then get the tool to do what you want to do. But you were under the hood years ago.
Yeah, I was teaching that stuff back in 2010 to other lawyers and paralegals of let's maximize the use of what you've got and make your job that much easier. So, you know, do you still need to think? Of course you need to still think. Do you need to edit some stuff? Sure. But why are you copying and pasting from old things when you can do blocks? Like just, you know what I mean? Like, it always boggled my mind. Well, I appreciate all of that insight, Omar, and really kind of bringing that piece in there. And you have been, you know, candidly a huge help at Mettle as we are getting ready to create those positions and create the workflows and the training to go with it and making sure that everything does align. Because when people come to work at Mettle eventually in the near future, learning those skills, we want to make sure they are going to be useful skills that will align with other jobs in the field that will carry them on their next role, right, into their next adventure as they continue forward. So, you know, I appreciate that extra insight as somebody who's an outsider working on getting on the inside type of thing, but also for anybody who might be listening to the podcast.
Outsider, get out of here.
And I've been here for 3 years. I guess I'm not quite on the outside as I used to be. I tiptoe a little bit each time. Right now, you're right. This has become my life and I love it. I genuinely love it and the people I get to work with. And so for any of the audience members that are listening, feel free and you want to learn more about Mettle, check out cybermettle.org. And you'll get a good flavor of what it is we're doing. And to follow, you can sign up for the newsletter and make sure you don't miss out on the latest for when we do start taking job applications. We literally launched the website last week and I've already gotten people asking for jobs. So we are in the fundraising side. We are in the building side. We are hoping to launch that part in in fall of 2026. That is our goal, to be able to start offering services and have people employed. So we've got a little bit of time on our hands as we build this up, but you know, please check out that website. Feel free to follow along on LinkedIn and of course, subscribe to the podcast because we're hoping to bring you the latest and greatest as it comes up with new guests.
Hoping to have, I think, the rest of the board come on through, and also friends or potential partners of Mettle. The response we've gotten, as we've discussed off the pod, has been, I think, validating to let us know, hey, we're not crazy. We definitely identified something that resonated, something that's needed. This is just that open call. Follow us here, follow us where we are. And if you want to get involved, reach out. We're not
Yeah,
here to say no.
that's right. So with that, Omar, as we always say,
As always, keep it Cyber Metal. Take care.